Hey guys, well I told you I was going to show up here in Vermont with the Hatman.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Johannes and Deb. She says she's his right-hand man. And they do a lot of turning, and upstairs they have what he calls a flatboard shop where they do general woodworking, tables and whatever. And he's got one he'll maybe let us take a peek at. But this guy can turn. While I'm sitting here, his shop outside and in here is covered in nice green wood curls. And I can tell just by looking at the curls that he might have turned a stick of wood or two. Okay? I don't see hunks, chunks. I don't see anything stuck in the wall. And if you look up over his head, you get an idea of what he's become famous for. Of all things, his hats.
This one's still in the bending process. The tape is on there to help prevent any cracking that might happen when I put the pressure on it to put the oval that's into the hat. The crack will always come out right there. So I stretch the tape on real tight and double where it counts in the middle here, and that helps prevent any problems from happening. But it was bent in a bender jig, actually a device that it sits in like this, and there's jaws that squeeze it, and then the rubber bands hook around to bend the brim all at the same time. This hat started out as about a 100-pound chunk of wood that I brought in that back door over there and brought to my bandsaw and cut. In that process, it lost about half of its 100 pounds. You bring 50 pounds to the lathe. When it's done turned, it weighs 7.5 ounces. Actually, when it's done turned, it weighs 8.5 ounces. When it's dry, it weighs 7.5 ounces. It loses about an ounce of water. And it's the curly sugar maple. Heartwood here. A little bit of color because it sat for a while, which, is a good and bad thing. Sometimes it's ugly, sometimes it's cool. The longer you let it sit, the cooler it gets.
We put a sweat ring in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. It all has a purpose, a reason for being.
This is
mini hats. There's little tiny mini hats. We could do one of these today, maybe. A little one like this can come out of a core of wood that lives inside the big hat. I have a special coring tool, they're hanging up there, that my own design and production, and they're good little carbide tip tools, and it can take a core out for a mini hat. It can also remove a ring of wood from around here that I make a mirror frame out of. There's one here that's recently done. It's got a step in the back for the glass, and a shelf here for a piece of plywood to hold the glass in, and a continuous groove all the way around to hang it on, so you can rotate it however you want it. Lots of fun. So that coring.
So we don't waste any wood.
No, well, we try to waste as little as possible. The coring tool does a great job of paying for itself. The cost of the tool is just under $200, but this sells at a craft show for just under $200. Tool's paid for a shop deal.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take and we're going to set up and make some wood ply.
We can do that. Yeah, little mini hat. We can do it quickly.
Let's do that.
All right, cool.
Okay. All right. Now, the first thing in case you don't know, I'm going to tell you. You got to be able to sharpen the tool you're going to turn.
Exactly right.
I mean, one of the biggest mistakes turners, particularly beginning turners, make is they don't understand how important sharpening is. It's the whole key. The grind, how you grind a tool, is all the difference in the world. Now, Johannes makes his own tools, and he has them for retail sale. And I'm going to let him show them to you. And he's also got a unique sharpening system that he's developed, and he's looking to get it going and into production or whatever. So we may come up with an introductory offer for those people that are interested. Okay, and get this thing on the road, because that's why I'm doing this, because he was showing me, I want him to show you, because even if you're an experienced turner, this is worth seeing. So he's got the mic. I'm going to step out and let him do his thing.
All right, thank you.
All right.
This is a half-inch version of my colleted handle with a half-inch piece of steel. And like Charles says, if you can't grind, you can't turn. It's all about having a sharp tool. You must be able to grind. And I've always freehand ground my tools, and I came up with a grind that worked really well. And I really actually believed that a jig could not be made to do this. We pondered it a lot, and finally we came up with an answer. This collet is a handy deal because I came up with this little bench wrench, we call it. And the beauty of the bench wrench is it never gets lost. It's screwed in place. It's going to be there. You just stick this in there like that, gives you both hands on the handle, pull the steel out. So to index the length of the steel, the projection beyond the grind fixture, I came up with a little thing like this that allows all of the flute to be ground. Other jigs don't do that. My way of indexing the flute up is that little shelf in there. You hold this down here and you tighten this knob and you're good to go. So I have a 2 1/8 inch projection, more than a typical grind jig, because I want my grind angle to be the same all the way around. Extremely important. Other grind jigs don't provide that. The flat side on a typical jig ground tool is the catch. That is where those catches come from. A curving side does not catch. So in doing the hand grinding, I used to twist the steel. That's why I thought a fixture like this or a jig could not do a grind like mine. But I was wrong. So when I first started trying this out, and a typical grind fixture also has only one pivot point, I decided I needed more. So I start on the side like that and do one side of the tool and I roll way over like that. That gives me that curving side that doesn't catch. This is a 180 grit diamond wheel. CBN wheels are better for this purpose, and they are coming. But the diamond does work, despite what people say. And it works really well. It puts a polished, honed edge on there. Then I go to the second step. I'll leave that one alone. That's if you want a typically ground tool. You don't need that one, really, for my grind. Then I do a back bevel, grinding away so that I have a very, very small rubbing bevel that gives me more control. If you have a big long bevel with a heel behind it, that can get in the way. We don't want things to get in the way, so we don't use that kind of grind. And then a third bevel that nicely rounds the back of the tool so that what your wood sees last is not the heel of a long bevel. So that's a done deal, ground. Put this back in there so you know where it is. Slip this back into the handle. Line up the flute with the bead that has the name on it, or any of the beads. Because then, what we have here is intelligence. Because now when I put that bead in the palm of my hand, there's a groove for the pads of my knuckles, a groove for my fingertips, and a groove for my thumb. Now my hand knows where the flute is, because I indexed it. So when I want to roll the tool closed, I roll the tool closed. I don't have to see the flute to know that the tool is closed because the handle is talking to me. All good stuff. Makes life a lot easier when you're turning. There's wood on the lathe here that was actually acquired by parting it out of a big hat. This came right out of the crown of one of those hats over there on the counter. This is the tool that did it. It's called the Quick Core, QC for short. It's a cold rolled steel bar with a little tiny diamond-shaped carbide, nano-grade carbide tip in there, good for at least 200 plunges, 100 on each end. It's reversible. And it cuts like a banshee. There is a YouTube video on the Quick Core, so you can check that out if you want to see it working. Because we've already got our piece, so we're not going to be doing this. But it's a great tool. Well, this can be a mini hat, which, by the way, we'll sell at a craft show for about the same value as that tool. So you use it once, it's paid for. That's a good tool. Now we've got it on the middle belt here. We can get up to a couple of thousand RPM, and that's a good speed for a mini hat. Big hats go about 700, but to get the same surface feet per minute, you got to go a couple of thousand. I'm going to create up here first a 2.5 inch diameter pin that I grip when I want to hollow it. I've found that an awl, I used to use an awl to mark the center, but it doesn't always find center. The corner of my ruler finds center all by itself. It just finds center. I don't know why, but it does. 2.5-inch tenon. I leave a little shelf for the ends of my jaws to bear on because it makes it easier to mount it up running through if I bear on the ends of the jaws. And this 2.5-inch tenon is actually, it's a little bigger than the top of the mini hat is going to be. And I like that because if I'm turning a piece limited in height like this one because it's a core, if I want to go up inside that tenon wood to get height of crown that I want, then I can. So I have to dive in here to get lower in diameter, come back out again. That was one of those oops moments there. Slipped out of my cup. Mini hats obviously don't have to fit anybody, but they do have to fit my process down the line so that I can actually finish it. Well, I want about a quit malfunction. I got it. I want about a
Hey, don't worry, but trust me, that microphone's had a wood shaving on it or two.
couple. I ripped it right off my shirt there. A little over 3-inch crown diameter, and this is the same way I put the sizing on a big hat, but I do it with calipers like this instead. So, for a mini hat, all I need is my 8-inch, and I put it on like this. You don't want to come like this, because I could catch in the end grain and kick. You want to come in like this. I draw the line there, so I can see my diameter that I want. Got to check my jaw distance. I don't want to run into the jaws, but I like to get close. Yeah, I've got a little bit of meat there. I can still go a little lower. You see the nice color that's flowing through this wood already? This was white sugar maple. In the heat of summer, you get these color clouds running through it. It makes a very interesting hat. I'm going to swing around the back here and make the up-curving part of my brim first. Full cut here, shear straight, wide open tool, tool on the hip, swivel your hip, bend your knees, nice curve. Can't stand up flat-footed and do this. You got to move with the tool. Now that we have established the hat size here, it's slightly big still. We know our brim size, so now I can move the tool rest in here to intelligently make good brim shape. Come in here at the edge with the tool closed and leave it about a big 30-second of an inch. The grain now. When I'm doing that to make shape, I'll come back and backside and get rid of the hair out.
Didn't. Wait a minute.
Okay, y'all just saw the shavings headed towards Sherry. We just had an oops moment.
Good.
She's over here now.
Malfunction.
Yeah, she's got a tank top on and it got full. I mean, it just literally, so you kind of had to been here, huh?
Or we need another camera.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so now, like I said, I was up against the grain, so but I got the shape, so now I just need to do a nice tool cut here, tool close, shear straightly, to come off off the grain to get rid of what I tore up when I went up the grain. I can float back and forth like this because the tool is still cutting in this direction. Look at that. There's a little tear on here still from the curl. There's also heavy curl in this. I'm going to back that a little more here. Shear scrape is a good way to get over curl too. Sometimes the cut just doesn't want to do it. No matter which way you cut, the curl gets under the steel, and shear scraping prevents that. Because it's pushing in negative rake actually when the tool is rolled over far enough so that the inside of the flute that's cutting is actually a ramp toward, it's like a scraper, and it doesn't pick up grain, it pushes at the grain. Now I'll go to a smaller tool, 3/8. Still pretty good and sharp, it's no problem. Here, like I said, I can go up inside the tenon material. Not right now, of course, but I can plan on it. And I can get a full crown hat out of it. Picking up those tiny little cuts is a difficult thing to do in wood turning. And it's facilitated by my grind because that little tiny bevel that I rub is much easier to control, and little cuts are no problem picking them up. I can also roll over this tool and shear scrape. I'm happy with that crown shape. We're good. It's a little low, as you can see. The crown right now is only, if I go up to where I am in tenon, I'm only 2 inches tall. I like to be like 2 1/4, 2 3/8 for crown height. So I'm going to be somewhere very near the top. A little shear scraping. I got it thin here, so I put my fingers on the back so it won't cut. I just want to thin this cut up a little. And you see I have some white translucent here. The wood is colored up a bit, as we saw, so that we're going to have a little hard time getting the light we need, but I think we can get it out. I know we can. Now I'll switch to a little bigger tool, save the edge on the small tool for the finished cut. Here I can roll the tool over, rub the bevel and cut. Here I can shear straight across here. Right here on the bottom, it's just a board. There is no end ring. And here I scoot a little bit. I can look over the top. I can get this eyeball to see the surface outside, and then this eyeball I can see the tool. So I can actually very quickly. If I don't get too blurry-eyed, I'm not getting much light through there, so it's a good thing I have that ability. It takes a little training to allow your eyes to do that. So then, of course, the real test for thickness is we use the light to help us, but we still got to measure. Looks like I nailed it. We're happy. We're a big fat 32nd of an inch. Maybe it's close to a 16th. I could shear scrape that a little thinner. Now the tool is rolled so far over that the upper edge is almost touching. That ensures that I have that ramp out, negative shear scraping. And now here it's all about knowing where to go in. And there I can do the same thing. I can look over the top, get my eye on the band out there, tip of the tool all at the same time. And here's where that handle is the good way to know the flute rotation. And I'm looking for a little light on the inside. I'm not getting much because of that coloration that happened in the work. But we are getting some. Oh. There's a little hole there that's showing up as a white line. There's just one little hole. So now we have a little light going in. I'll grab the big tool again to get rid of the center. We do have some white wood up in the crown that hasn't turned color yet, so we're getting those nice little helpful glimpses of reality. But I still have to measure. I'll stop and measure quick, see how we're going. Little thick, about the same thickness all the way. My hand knows where to go. A little loose right on the band, and so the band is about right. This is measuring a big fat 16th. We can't have that. A little bit more on the band itself. Roll the tool, roll the tool so you get close, so it's safe to enter here, and then open it up and push. We want to go up inside that tenon wood. And right there where it gets dark and stays that way, we know we're inside it. Now we know we want to get in there about quarter inch. We've got about an eighth so far. And go a little further. That way we can get the crown height we want. Because we got the wood for it. Now I want to see in there to make the dome shape up in the top. I'll turn that light on. And using my left hand as a pivot point, just with the tip of the tool, like more or less not rubbing a bevel, it's impossible in there. And I make that dome shape. And to make it smooth, I use either a termite tool or a little carbide tip tool, neither of which I'm seeing right now. That's the big carbide tip tool. The little one. There we go. It's a little tiny 3/16 diameter, little tiny round carbide. It's an illuminator. And that can rub the bevel up in there because the bevel is perpendicular to the handle. And that makes our smooth condition. We want up there, and I'm going to round this corner off that I left. It's a good place to start that tool. And then my mark is a little tiny spiral in the middle with a little curlicue, 1 1/4 revolution, little curlicue. I go in there at about 100 RPM. I make the little circle first, and then I just pull away like that. I get that little tail. And now we get sand a little bit. We don't want to bore everybody to death with sanding. But I do want to finish this hat because it's a nice looking piece of wood. Got my partially used sandpaper stacks over here that are good for mini hats. That was 120. This is 180. I like to go in reverse on some of the sanding to get this angle on the little broken fibers that happen on the end grain transition. Get them to go away a little quicker. And this is all green wood turning, which is at least half the fun, because green wood is a lot more fun to turn than dry wood. And the beauty of even the dust is wet, so it doesn't hang in the air like dry dust does. It falls to the floor within a minute. I do have a vacuum system, but it's noisy, so I'm going to disrupt the video with that. And that's enough sanding. I usually take it to 320. But in the interest of keeping moving here.
And make sure you explain to them why we don't have the cracking issues. I mean, I realize sometimes a little something, but as many hats as you've got, and I'm seeing them bent and everything else, the reason we don't have the cracking issue is, explain.
There is no internal part here. Wood cracks as it dries because the internal parts are not exposed to the air. The wood, the external parts exposed to the air are drying, and they need to get smaller. The internal parts don't know about that. They're not getting smaller. So if you turn something thicker and you want to dry it without cracking, you have to slow down the surface evaporation rate to match the water within the wood migration rate. And with this, there is no internal part. So there is no really, it's all surface. As it dries, it becomes oval. And it's that ovalness that was available for free while you turn green wood that gave me the idea for hats in the first place.
I understand. And I also agree that we were talking earlier about who says a bowl's got to be round.
Yeah, I like ovals. There's nothing wrong with oval. I'm a little off my game because we're pushing. This is actually a little thick, but it will bend. So you can see how flexible it is, the wet wood. Over here I have set up a little mini lathe that has my wood jaws and a light inside that is actually stabilized by this clamp hanging out here. And it stands still while the whole world turns around it. And so it's possible to put our little mini hat on here and have it glow so that we can do the top. I made the shape that I want for the top. I made that inside already. It's that recessed dome shape. So we need to just shrink these jaws a little, slip this on there, and that center point I marked to lay out my circle for the size of my tenon, I also now use to help it run through on here. Put that point right in there, tighten this in, so we're all good to go here now. And we can turn this off, and I grab a tool and do the top of that. Oh, I had a tool right here. The one I wanted. A little shortened version of the The standard tool, the small diameter tool, is 18 inches long. It's a little long for doing this, so I cut them to make an 11-inch version. A little dark wood happened right before we got into our tenon, so maybe I didn't get as high into that tenon as I thought I did. Oh, that could make it hard to finish it. I'm getting a little orange glow there now. In the dark wood as well. We don't want to make a funnel out of this, not now. The wood that colors up. It's colored up a little bit brown, and you can see I'm getting a little glow through there, so I'm about to my height. I'm not as tall as I thought I was because of that dark wood happening, but it's good. I'm okay with it. I gotta be, right? Even though it's real thin, we still got wood to cut in. Blend these two surfaces together. I don't remember if I tightened my chuck. I better check that. If I could find the chuck. Here it is. Because once I lose this tenon here, this little spigot, I could lose the hat. So. A little light there now as well. You can see what I'm doing. How thin I am. That ground out wood doesn't transluce a lot, but just enough. You can see that little bit of glow there. Rid of our tenon. Okay. Also listening to it now. Instead of making sort of a growly low sound as it cuts, it makes more of a hiss. That tells me it's getting thin. We got light coming through there. Just got a little too much daylight coming in to really see it the way it's normally seen. Now a little bit of sanding here. This lathe doesn't have reverse, unfortunately, so I can't do that. This is good. This is back out to 120, so I don't want to get on the brim. I've already done 180 over there. 180. And then I've colored the bands with another piece of wood. Something I discovered early on in the hat making. I was burnishing my bands with an old baluster chopped at a 45 degree and just getting the heat of the burnishing to burn it. Which turns out to be not such a good idea because it makes a lot of little micro checks that can wind up as cracks when you're bending. And then I discovered, by accident, I thought I would make a nice little tool out of ebony for my burnishing instead of using that baluster. And As soon as I touched it, it turned black immediately. Like, oh, wow. So that's different. I can turn the light on for that. You can better see it. Unplug this light. And I've got here that stick of ebony, which I like to get a fresh surface on. If it's been burnished upon already, it doesn't do such a good job. I'm not after that sharp edge that I created. I'm after this clean, unburnished face on this one, so I can flip it. I can press, I use my fingers here, press with this thumb, and get two black lines like that. And then I've got a piece of Hadouk here. That'll make the nice brown color in between the two. But I like Hadouk a lot. I like the smell it makes. Unfortunately, you're not getting that. You got smell-o-vision in that camera? It makes a nice nutmeg kind of aroma in the air. And a little blacker up here would be good. And I like it also because it tends to run over itself and make these kind of intermittent little dark spots. Makes it more natural looking. So now we can take it from here and stick in a bender. And overnight it'll bend and dry because it's so thin. Not quite the crown height I would have liked. Didn't quite get up there because that wood fooled me into thinking I was inside the tenon already. But I wasn't. Well, obviously we would like absolutely to take advantage of the ovalness we're going to get from the shrinking. From this amount of wood, it's only going to be maybe an 1/8 inch. But we're going to amplify that by squeezing it. And because mini hats are not going to fit anybody, it doesn't need to be an adjustable system. This C shape is my clamp. C clamp. Here you go. Squeeze these together and slip this on there. So now there's some spring pressure against the sides of the hat. And then rubber band to bend the brim. Over like that and down on the other side. And I checked. Obviously these are tighter than these, so I pull these over. A little tuning. That's pretty close. So there's what it looks like now, and tomorrow it'll look like this. Or even more bend than that. Some of them bend quite radically and makes a nice little good look, and get some light on it. See, this is the color this would have been if it hadn't sat and turned color in the heat of summer. As you can see, a little color has gone into this one, very little. So it's mostly white, curly sugar maple. Thank you.
Here, now let's go upstairs. Well, we're now up in what you call it, your
Flatboard shop.
Flatboard shop.
So wood turners affectionately call this the flatboard shop.
Well, this don't necessarily look like flat wood to me.
Well, it's not so flat. But it was processed. It's a walnut and tapered stays, perfectly fitted, glued up base, all turned. This is turned on that same lathe I turned the mini hat, that robust lathe. And joints are all good. I've done a lot of this kind of work in the past. Before I really became the full-time wood turner I was a full-time stair builder. And the way I fell into wood turning was turning my old banisters and newel posts because I didn't like what I could buy downtown.
I understand. Now I want y'all to notice fit right here. Notice this line.
This taper here, this taper, making that taper fit, of course, had to be done while this was one piece. I didn't cut it yet. I had to drop this in there. And of course, the first time I dropped it in there, it stopped somewhere around here. So I sprayed some water on here with a water bottle, stuck it in there, looked for the wet spots, cut the wet spots away. Done that 6 times, and then you got to fit like that.
Excellent. We only got a couple minutes of battery left, so we're going to go over here and look at some other the hats. So this is a big hat. Man, I make this look good, don't I?
You do. You really bring it out.
Yeah,
you got all the right qualities. You're what we call a hat person.
There you go. So as you can see, he makes some big hats.
That's not a big hat. I got a big hat here that you might want to see. This is called a Mongo hat. There are only 4 of these, sum total, in the world. I made the other 3 about 14 years ago, and they all sold almost immediately. So you gotta wonder why it took till now to make this one. But I love Mongo hats. Trouble is, you need a big piece of wood to do it.
And I got news for you. You need a big head to go in there.
Yeah, well, bigger than mine.
Okay,
All
guys.
right.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.